Okay, so I just finished episode 6 of Presumed Innocent, and this show is just so fucking good. It's absolutely incredible. This episode focuses on the first, um, not the first, but it focuses on the trial itself. So I'm going to be in my lawyer bag. If you don't want to hear me talk about a whole bunch of lawyerly things, just skip this video and probably the next one. And I may even have to make a third one because I took notes because there's a lot of lawyerly things that I really want to talk about. And also, I just learned that David E. Kelly, who produced this show, is a former or possibly current, I don't know if his license is still active, attorney. So I guess he acts as like the legal consultant on the show. And that makes sense about why he's done so many lawyer shows. So I never knew that. I found that out just tonight. But yeah, so I have like 2 pages of stuff that I want to talk about. So let's go. You ready? In my Beyonce voice. Actually, she would say, y'all ready? So, first thing I noticed is that Maya is not sitting at the defense table. And at first, I thought it was because she's not co-counsel, and so it wouldn't make sense for her to sit there. But then she cross-examines Eugenia, who also works in the DA's office, if y'all will recall. And at that point, I'm like, wait, I think she is co-counsel if she's cross-examining someone. So if she's cross-examining someone, she should be sitting at the defense table. I can tell you from my personal experience, even when I was an extern working in the conflict defender's office, very quickly, what a conflict defender is if you have 2 defendants who are charged with a crime, it's assumed that they're gonna implicate each other. So if they don't have money to hire attorneys, one of them will go to the public defender's office and one of them will be represented by the conflict defender. So that's what a conflict defender is. So I had an externship there the summer before I graduated from law school, and I sat at the defense table. I never cross-examined anybody. I did give my input during voir dire, but I was not co-counsel on the case because I was not licensed to practice law. And Georgia and some other states have something called the Third Year Practice Act, which basically means that you can be sworn in and you can represent people, you can try a case, you can do anything as long as you have the supervision of a licensed attorney. So I was sworn in under the Third Year Practice Act. I did represent someone taking a plea during that time. I didn't try any cases though, but I did represent someone. And I sat at the defense table. And so it really bothered me that Maya wasn't sitting there. Okay, so we get to the skin. I'm looking at my notes, y'all. So we get to the skin that's under that's under Caroline's fingernails. So Tommy asked the Emmy Herbert if it happened because she was trying to defend herself. And the Emmy says it's possible, but more than likely she never saw it coming. So this is a point in Rusty's favor because most likely what it means is that that skin got under there because, you know, maybe she scratched Rusty's back like during sex, or maybe she dragged her fingernails across his face, you know, caressing him, something like that. And then we find out later from the forensic pathologist during Raymond's cross-examination, which the actor that plays Raymond, he is eating down. Like, these crosses are eating down. I want you all to know, for those of you that are not lawyers, these cross-examinations are incredibly realistic. Incredibly realistic. Like, Raymond is doing a beautiful job. Peter Skarsgård as Tommy is doing a beautiful job with his direct examination, and then when he redirects after Tommy crosses, like, spot on the money. And I just want to say, while I'm on this point, this is one of the most realistic lawyer shows, lawyer procedurals, whatever you want to call it, that I have ever seen. So it's a beautiful job done on this show. This show is so fucking good. So we find out during Raymond's Cross from the forensic pathologist that it's not actually skin that's found under her fingernails, it's cells. And so that means that it could have come from what I just described. Also, we find out when Tommy and the DA are in the car that this skin was not mentioned in the initial report. So that kind of suggests, maybe it is a plant. Since it's only cells, it's unlikely. Most likely what happened is that it came from, her caressing Rusty's face or whatever. But it's very interesting that it wasn't mentioned initially. Okay, so then it is mentioned during trial, during the direct of the medical examiner Herbert, that Rusty impregnated Caroline. Now, for those of you that don't know, that is incredibly damning because the number one cause of death of pregnant women is homicide, likely committed by the father of the child. Now, if you Google this, if you look this up, because I did Google this before I came on here to talk to y'all, it's just going to say homicide. I am adding in, from what I know, that those homicides are mostly committed by the father of the child. But it could be, from, women or people trying to steal the child. It could be that, but I also think a large percent of those homicides are committed by the father of the child. So, okay. So another beautiful moment of this episode is Raymond's cross-examination of Herbert, where he's asking Herbert, do you have a bias against district attorneys? And anytime you imply that somebody has a bias, they're going to take offense to that. Whether it's a racial bias, whether it's a bias against a particular group of people, not based on race, whatever it is. And Raymond knows that, and that's why he's doing that. And so one great skill of an attorney is, in this situation where you're cross-examining someone, if you know that there's an exposed nerve, you just tap on that nerve until you get a reaction. And that's what Raymond did. So he's like, oh, you think Rusty's an asshole? He's like, oh, and at first you notice Herbert is calm. He's like, oh, I regret saying that. I didn't mean to say that. Then he's like, Raymond says, have you ever called me an asshole? Probably. And he's like, it's seeming like you have a bias against district attorneys. So you're just tapping. And then it's like, have you ever called Tommy an asshole? And then Herbert just explodes. And that's what you want. Because you want to make this person seem less, he's a medical examiner, he's a doctor. So you want him to seem less rational, less logical. You want him to seem, volatile. And what I actually was thinking watching that scene is I was like, what if he killed Carolyn? Because he would know how that serial killer's victims were tied up because he performed the autopsy on them as well, I'm assuming. So it's like, what if it was him? I'd be gagged. I have no idea what the motive would be, but I would be gagged by that. So after that, there's a scene where Raymond and Maya are talking to Rusty and Barbara about body language in court. So I want you all to know that's incredibly realistic. When you prepare your client for trial, you talk to them about everything. Because I think I've said in a video before regarding this show, trial is theater. So I've coached clients on what they need to wear, their body language. You ask them, do they have family members that can come? Family members, if you're trying a criminal case, family members coming is extremely important. Because if nobody comes to support you, the jury's going to assume that person is guilty. This video is about to end. I'm definitely going to have to do a part 2. I may have to do a part 3. If it gets to 3, I'm going to end it there because that's just too much. But I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.